to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles, and joining me today is from our EBC Thailand Bureau, Aaron.
Hello, I'm Aaron Calleja from your EBC Thailand Bureau, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines. Malaysia's embattled Prime Minister passed his biggest political test since taking office with a narrow victory in key state elections, which could help strengthen his tenuous hold on power.
Boxing icon Manny Pacquiao wants to fight Irish mixed martial arts star Conor McGregor in the ring next year.
Good morning, good afternoon.
And later, His Excellency Ambassador Rodrigo do Amaral Souza, the Brazilian ambassador to the Philippines, talks about reinforcing partnerships with the Philippines, the Iglesia ni Cristo, and Eagle Broadcasting amid the pandemic period in an exclusive interview with EBC. First to Malaysia, where the embattled Prime Minister on Saturday passed his biggest political test since taking office with a narrow victory in key state elections, which could help strengthen his tenuous hold on power. Now, analysts had warned a defeat in eastern Sabah State for Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin could have meant the end of his fractious coalition government, which came to power without an election in March. Now, adding to his problems, the vote came just days after opposition leader Anwar Ibrahim launched a bid to topple Muhyiddin's administration, claiming he had mustered enough support from MPs to take over. Malaysia has been gripped by political turmoil since the collapse in February of a reformist government which was headed by Mahathir Mohamad and included Anwar amid bitter infighting. Now, Prime Minister Muhyiddin seized power at the head of a coalition backed by a scandal-plagued party which critics accuse of lacking legitimacy, and his administration has only a wafer-thin majority in parliament. The elections in Sabah on Borneo Island were called after Muhyiddin ally launched a bid to take over the opposition-controlled local government, but rather than cede power, the chief minister dissolved the state assembly.
Real estate projects see an increased move to provinces. Joining us live from Vietnam is Miss Charlene Navarra. Charlene, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Aaron. So, an update from VietnamNews.vn said that business experts here in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City are moving their investments to other localities. So, Nguyen Van Dinh, Deputy General Secretary of the Vietnam Real Estate Association, or VNREA, spoke at a conference on property in 2021 and the rise of new markets held in the central province of Binh Dinh on Saturday. Said that wave of investment in real estate projects in provinces become more intense in the past few years. So he also said that before big cities were the main targets for huge real estate developers, but now they are eager to invest and explore new lands. So why? Because the property products in the cities, such as villas and resorts, are becoming short, and property markets in the two major cities have shortage on land funds. And he even added that apartments in Hanoi has reached its highest price, and the buyers are aiming for accommodation but not for business anymore. And meanwhile, in Ho Chi Minh City, over the past 2 years, there were no reports for new completed projects. So the prices for apartments even reached 5 to 7% of increase. So even 10% in some areas. So he said shareholders would want to pour money into a market with good profitability and low prices. He said, and I quote, This was why new markets see strong economic development, including advantages in industrial development and the tourism sector. Excluding areas that have developed tourism real estate, such as Da Nang, Nha Trang, and Quang Ninh. The new markets for the tourism industry are the localities that in recent years have taken advantage of beautiful landscapes and good natural conditions, such as Thanh Hoa, Nghệ An, Quang Binh, and Bình Định. We agree that these are the addresses that see new markets. And these new markets also have advantages such as open policies, engaging many shareholders to pour their money into industrial development projects, infrastructure, and even tourism. So over the past 2 years, the number of searches in other markets have heightened. So an example stated was Quy Nhon, that's in Bình Định, Aaron, that got an increase of 30% compared to the second quarter of this year. So Nguyen Quoc Anh, the Deputy General Director of batdongsan.com.vn, this is a real estate company, said that people become more absorbed in real estate when they see a huge investment in infrastructure and easy travel. So Chan Zulik, a member of Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc Economic Advisory Council, said there are two reasons for this move. And one is that localities like Bình Định, Thanh Hoa, and Quang Binh are developing quickly. He said that major real estate projects have opened up opportunities for many investors. This showed that emerging market cannot rise without pioneering projects and investors. He also added, citing Bình Định province as an example, has paid attention to transport infrastructure in recent years, thus becoming an important factor in attracting investment in the property sector. So Nguyen Tuan Thang, the vice chairman of People's Committee of Bình Định province, said that they have been actively planning to attract investment in many sectors, including the real estate. He also mentioned that they also focus on investing in connecting and building infrastructure in the past 10 years. So Bình Định has invested in infrastructure, including airports that are welcoming flights a day for both domestic and foreign tourists, along with the seaport, north to south railway and roads. And the vice chairman said the locality has opened a number of coastal roads connecting Quy Nhon with other localities to contribute to development of urban infrastructure and tourism. So Bình Định has attached great importance to urban and ecological environment development. So improving the lives of and quality of life for people is one of the reasons why Bình Định is luring investments for developers. And in another news, so just the corona situation here in Vietnam just increased of 5 last night. So they were imported cases from France, so bringing the total number of infections to 1,074, with 999 recovered and 35 deaths. Back to you, Aaron.
Thank you, Charlene, our EBC Vietnam Bureau. Stay safe.
You too, Aaron. So this has been Charlene Naval reporting live from Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
Thailand highlights opportunities for public-private partnership for ASEAN green recovery. Here's Crystal Mapa for Thailand Bureau. Crystal.
Hi, Arian. Yes, and you are right. According to Public Relations Department of Thailand, opportunities for further public-private partnership in ASEAN's green recovery was highlighted in the keynote opening remarks of Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Don Pramudwinai at the Sustainable Development Impact Summit, or SDI Summit, in the session of Financing ASEAN's Green Recovery and the SGDs last week. On the said event, Mr. Don Pramudwinai outlined possible cooperation in 3 areas such as the following. First is by advancing the transition to green energy and by supporting bio, circular, and green economy to ensure that the post-COVID-19 economic recovery will bring out sustainability and long-term resilience. Second is an approach called whole of community to enhance coordination and partnerships with relevant stakeholders and external partners for greater collaboration, which can be done by exchanging of best practices like Thailand's sufficiency economy philosophy as an alternative model for sustainable growth. Third, and not the least, is the need to strengthen the green connectivity through supporting financing mechanisms for green infrastructure, the ASEAN Catalytic Green Finance Facility, and the development of digital connectivity to open up new opportunities for MSMEs and local businesses throughout the region. Sustainable Development Impact Summit is held annually by the World Economic Forum during the high-level week of the United Nations General Assembly to serve as a platform for leaders in public, private, and academic sectors to exchange ideas and approach in addressing climate change and further advancing sustainable development agendas. And Thailand is the ASEAN coordinator on sustainable development cooperation. Back to you, Aaron.
Thank you for that wonderful news, Christelle. So stay safe and stay great.
Yes, Aaron. And just before I go, I would like to say congratulations to you for anchoring today. Reporting live from Thailand, this is Crystal Malpa. We live in interesting times.
Unprecedented Republic hashtag went viral on Thai social media as pro-democracy activists vented their frustration at delays to constitutional reforms they blame on the kingdom's premier. Now, lawmakers had been expected to vote on constitutional changes overnight, but these will now be further scrutinized by a parliamentary committee. More than 1,000 people rallied outside the parliament as junta-picked senators and members of the ruling coalition made the decision. The protesters accused the government of trying to buy time, a claim Prayut rejected on Friday. Now, the Prime Minister also said some of the proposals were unacceptable to many Thai people, and Parliament's decision reflected that, denying he had masterminded the move. Now, the hashtag Republic of Thailand and was trending on Twitter in the kingdom and had garnered 865,000 tweets by early Friday evening. Thailand has seen near-daily protests for the past 2 months, calling for reform of the monarchy. They're also asking for the resignation of Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha, a former army chief who led a 2014 coup.
Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon, is under strict lockdown and has rapidly built new quarantine centers as it scrambled for its first significant outbreak. Around 6,000 people have been quarantined in the city, and state media reported Saturday that 7 new facilities have been built to isolate another 1,000 people. The Southeast Asian nation has one of the world's most impoverished healthcare systems, but it had until recently remained relatively unscathed by the pandemic. Last month, there were fewer than 400 total confirmed cases nationwide and just 6 deaths from the disease. But rising case numbers in the country's west quickly spread elsewhere, and infection numbers have doubled every week. They were expected to pass 10,000 in the coming days, with a current death toll of 174. Residents have been told to stay at home unless working in certain key industries or shopping for food or medical supplies. Domestic travel out of the city is forbidden, and a ban on international commercial flights have been extended until the end of October. Myanmar civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi has placed herself front and center in the nation's fight against the disease. In the address of the nation last Friday, she urged the country to ignore the spread of false rumors and ridiculous treatments. A leaked letter this week showed the government was even making preparation to distribute basic foods to the city's 7 million, sowing fears and even stricter lockdown could be on the cards. But Suu Kyi's spokesman Zhao Tai dismissed that possibility, telling reporters that Friday that authorities were just making contingency plans for the worst-case scenario.
ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
The New Era University, in its 45th year of excellence, discipline, and service to humanity, will offer online education all levels beginning this first semester academic year 2020 to 2021 through the NEU Virtual Learning Environment, or NEU VLE. New Era University offers a complete basic education cycle from kindergarten up to senior high school, offering all strands. NEU has 18 colleges, and 2 graduate schools. It also offers ALS and ETF. Best of all, NEU has the most affordable tuition fees among private universities in the Philippines. NEU is at Quezon City, the city of San Fernando, Pampanga, General Santos City, South Cotabato, Lipa City, Batangas, and Pinugay, Baras, Rizal. New Era University is under the stewardship of Dr. Dilo L. Rosas. What are you waiting for? Be part of the new normal. Enroll now. Classes start on October 5, 2020.
The Department of Foreign Affairs has brought home close to 200,000 overseas Filipinos since the country's biggest repatriation campaign started in January. At least 9,574 were brought the past week. Of the total, 195,224, the sea-based workers number 67,484, while 127,740 are land-based. And now this week, 2 DFA chartered flights from Saudi Arabia brought home 711 overseas Filipinos. Among them was OFW Rose Policarpio, whose acquittal from murder charges was secured through the DFA's steadfast assistance. The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, said Sunday it will continue to help Policarpio get back on her feet financially through assistance in various labor programs. Now, last Saturday, the DFA welcomed an additional 317 Filipinos, including 12 children from Lebanon. They joined the DFA chartered Philippine Airlines flight, which also brought 5,000 boxes of relief goods for the Filipino community in Lebanon and medical supplies for Lebanese beneficiaries. The donations came mainly from the Lucio Tan group of companies. The DFA said it remains fully committed to its assistance to nationals mandate and its daily repatriation efforts in the ongoing battle against the pandemic.
Despite the downward revision to the projected rice imports of the Philippines, the country's purchases in the current market year will still exceed 2 million metric tons, according to the Global Agricultural Information Network. The rice import forecast for the Philippines in the market year 2020 to 2021 was adjusted downward to 2.6 million metric tons from 3 million metric tons in the GAIN report due to the expectation of higher unmilled rice output from July 2020 to June 2021. However, despite the upward revisions, the projection is still 1.9% lower than the 11.927 million metric tons recorded in the previous market year. The Philippine Statistics Authority, or PSA, said the country's unmilled rice production in the third quarter could rise by 16.4% to 3.551 metric tons from the last year's 3.051 metric tons due to the expansion in the harvest area.
All 125 personnel aboard missile frigate BRP Jose Rizal, or FF-150, which participated in this year's RIMPAC, or Rim of the Pacific Naval Exercises, have tested negative for COVID-19. Now, swab samples from the contingent were taken on September 24, or a full day after they dropped anchor off Subic Bay, Zambales. The BRP Jose Rizal wasn't allowed to dock at the Alava Wharf until the results of the swab test were out, adding that the ship only docked at the pier on Sunday. Philippine Navy Public Affairs Office Chief Lieutenant Commander Maria Cristina Rojas said the contingent is now just observing mandatory quarantine as part of the health and safety protocols. Now, they are now on standby for the arrival ceremony, which is tentatively scheduled for October 2 in South Harbor, Manila. BRP Jose Rizal left Guam last September 18 after a two-day refueling and provisioning stop, arriving on the island on September 16. The ship left Pearl Harbor, Hawaii last September 4 after its successful participation in the biennial RIMPAC naval exercises last August. BRP Jose Rizal is the first Navy vessel capable of conducting anti-air warfare, anti-surface warfare, anti-submarine warfare, and electronic warfare operations.
A 5-year-old giant African pouch rat called Magawa has won the animal equivalent of Britain's highest civilian honor for bravery because of his uncanny knack of sniffing out landmines and unexploded devices. Boxing icon Manny Pacquiao wants to fight the Irish mixed martial arts star Conor McGregor in the ring next year, an aide said in the statement Saturday. For the sake of all the Filipinos victims of COVID-19, Senator Manny Pacquiao will be fighting UFC superstar Conor McGregor next year. Pacquiao's special assistant Jake Johnson said, adding negotiations are ongoing. The fight could be staged in the Middle East after the coronavirus pandemic abates. The aide said adding Pacquiao would be donate a portion of his prize earnings to the Filipino COVID-19 victims. Earlier Friday, McGregor, 32, said on Twitter he has boxing Manny Pacquiao next in the Middle East. McGregor said, and I quote, "It will be a true honor to have faced two of the greatest boxers of the modern era." Pacquiao, age 41, has not fought since claiming the WBA welterweight crown with a stunning victory over Neil Furman in Las Vegas in July last year.
В декабре пройдет абсолютный кубок.
All right, ASEAN in Focus. We'll be right back.
New work? New Era University now offers Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP. ETIAP is an educational scheme that recognizes knowledge, skills, and prior learning obtained by individuals from non-formal and informal education experiences. It is implemented through deputized higher educational institutions like the New Era University that awards the appropriate degrees. Programs offered are the following: Master's Program, Masters of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management, Master's Program in Business Administration, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Political Science, Bachelor of Arts in Science, major in Mass Communication, Bachelor of Science in Education, major in Filipino, major in English, Bachelor of Science in Business Administration with majors in Human Resources Development, Marketing Management, and Financial Management. Beneficiaries must be Filipinos who have attained at least high school level of education. The program is flexible and you don't need to attend regular classes. Expanded Tertiary Education Equivalency and Accreditation Program, or ETIAP, is under the supervision of Dr. Nilo L. Rosas, the University President, and Professor Anita P. Santos, Director of ETIAP. For more information, contact the following: Cristina Moreno, 0995-138-0786, or email cvmoreno@meu.edu.ph, or Arlene Sarmiento, 0906-298-9150, or email cedctl@meu.edu.ph. What are you waiting for? Let New Era University be your partner in achieving your dreams.
And today, Eagle Broadcasting Corporation was able to talk to His Excellency Ambassador Rodrigo do Amaral Souza, the Brazilian ambassador to the Philippines, where he talks about reinforcing partnerships with the Philippines, the Iglesia ni Cristo, and Eagle Broadcasting Corporation amid the pandemic period. Let's listen in.
So, a question that might be of interest for the viewers.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, how have you been during this pandemic? We would like to ask first. How have you been?
Well, you know that these times are very hard for everyone, not only in the Philippines, but all over the world, even in Brazil, where the pandemic has hit us very hard. But I've been trying to be very cautious. I've been working from home for many months, practically since the first lockdown measures were imposed in Manila. And I think we managed to establish an efficient working methodology in the embassy. So we have also always staff there, and we are open to the public. The consular section of the embassy is open, has been open for many months. And I just hope that this situation might be solved soon, and that we could restore our normal lives as soon as possible.
How is work now in the embassy? Is it like any other places, like all over the world, not yet 100%?
Yes, well, we don't have a very large staff in Manila, so we introduce a rotation system between the different sectors of the embassy, so as to have at all time one staff member for each sector in the embassy. And all the others are available to work from their homes via teleoffice.
Yes.
Let us call it this. and I haven't received any complaints. I think that we have been able to answer all the inquiries and requests we have been receiving.
You're leaving us. Sad. Because you're leaving us. Can you tell us when is this going to happen and where are you going, sir?
Well, unfortunately, that's true. The life of a diplomat is characterized by constant moves from one country to another. That's part of our job. And I arrived here in January 2016. So in a few months, I would be completing 5 years of assignment in Manila. So that's the normal, the average time for a rotation. So I should be leaving in a few months. I'm bound for Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. I will be the Brazilian ambassador in Port of Spain, the Trinidadian capital. And I will leave Manila with many good memories of all those years I spent here.
Oh, thank you very much. And sorry, of course you're leaving us, but you had activities, projects in the Philippines that you had here. Can you tell us some of these activities? That
Yes, of course. We have been doing many things remotely, and we have been attending webinars, video conferences regarding many issues. And during the first months of the pandemic, we had a very urgent task. We were engaged in a large endeavor of repatriation. There were many Brazilian stranded tourists in many islands of the Philippine archipelago. So we had to group all these tourists, send them to Manila, and from Manila try to book them flights, commercial flights or freight flights to Brazil. And this was our priority mission during the first 3 months of the pandemic. Fortunately, we were able to repatriate most of those Brazilians. There are still some Brazilians who were left here, but in all these cases, they had some kind of help. They were able to find appropriate lodging, or they even chose, in some cases, to stay here for personal reasons. And in the last few weeks, we were also engaged in another important mission. The Philippine Air Force bought 6 new aircraft from a private Brazilian company, Embraer. And there was a very complex operation to bring these 6 airplanes from Brazil to the Philippines. This involved stops in intermediate countries, and in all those cases we had to request permissions for overflight and for landing. And also there were issues involving quarantine requirements for the crews. And we had to negotiate a waiver for these requirements so as to allow the operation to go ahead. And fortunately, the first 4 aircraft have already arrived in Clark, in Pampanga, and we are waiting for the 2 remaining airplanes to arrive this weekend. And so fortunately, the mission will be accomplished.
And usually nationally observe activities like sports, culture. How has the pandemic affected your usual activities?
Well, this pandemic has hit all these activities very hard. We had to suspend, for instance, the usual National Day celebration, the reception that we hold every year at a hotel in Manila. These kinds of events are not permitted under the present circumstances. And also cultural performances, cultural events must await for the resumption of, must await the lifting of the quarantine restrictions. We have counted on the understanding of all our partners in cultural events, and they are all only waiting for the normal situation to be reestablished so that we could resume all those activities. We have to be very cautious and be on the safe side. We cannot risk the health of everything involved in these kinds of activities. So, let's just count on the understanding and on the patience of everyone involved.
Well, I just read up today because, as you know, I'm always in the news. So I just read up that the UN Chief Antonio Gutierrez recently emphasized the universal access for a vaccine for everyone to have equitable access for all. And Brazil has just signed on as one of the countries to join COVAX facility. That is so good. Excellent, sir.
Yes, we fully agree that vaccines will be essential for this crisis to be overcome. And we are trying to establish deals with many pharmaceutical companies and vaccine producers so that everyone that will need a vaccine will be able to be attended in Brazil. We are trying to close cooperation deals with Russian, Chinese, British, American pharmaceutical companies, and we have also joined the WHO initiative to assure the distribution of vaccines to all strata of the population, even the poorer segments of the population. And we are sure that by the end of the year we will start the distribution of vaccines in Brazil. This will be a long-lasting process that will go on for many months. But we are confident that it will start by the end of the year. And with the vaccines, we will have reached a very fundamental step towards the end of the pandemic worldwide. That's our aim, that's our wish, that's what the whole world is hoping for.
Mr. Ambassador, could you expound more on your mission here in the Philippines? How has it been? Do you see potential for stronger trade, tourism, diplomatic ties with the Philippines? Has it been affected with this current situation?
There is still a huge potential to be explored, to intensify and to increase bilateral trade, for instance. I think that we must insist on expanding the knowledge about our mutual realities, not even here in the Philippines, but also in Brazil. Many people in Brazil still have a very vague impression of what the Philippines is as a country. And the same thing happens with Brazil in the Philippines. So one of the priorities of my mission was to go to many schools, universities, giving lectures, sending information, receiving students at the embassy to provide more information about Brazil. I think that's one of the key parts of my mission here. And I'm sure my successor agrees with that. My successor here will be a person who has a very deep knowledge of Southeast Asia. He is the current ambassador to Myanmar. He had always been ambassador to East Timor. And he knows the Philippines very well. He visited Manila many times during his tenure in Myanmar. And I think that also we must insist on removing barriers to trade, for instance. During my stay here, the most serious problem we faced regards sanitary barriers to our meat. To chicken, to beef, and also to pork. Today, for instance, we are facing restrictions to the entry of Brazilian poultry meat into the Philippine market, allegedly for the discovery of COVID-19 traces in a shipment bound for China, not for the Philippines. And the only country that imposed the restrictions to the Brazilian meat was the Philippines, unfortunately. We are working with the Department of Agriculture and other instances in the Philippine government to try to find a solution to this. But we have, all in all, a very good relation. We don't have any important disagreements in our bilateral relations. On the contrary, Brazil has a very long-standing history of good relations with the Philippines. We have more than 70 years of diplomatic relations with this country. We were present here in 1946 when the Philippines officially were declared as an independent country. And since then, we have official diplomatic relations. In 1970, we opened our resident embassy in Manila. And in Southeast Asia, the Philippines have always been viewed with priority attention by our government.
But on a positive note, in the world, Brazil is the largest exporter of coffee, sugar, soybeans, and other crops. And it's also good to note, I just read up on this, that Brazil's coffee production has actually increased over the last year. So how has recent times affected trade and production and export in this field? And would you attribute these advances in Brazil's agricultural technology?
Well, we are a world power regarding the exports of agricultural commodities. You mentioned coffee, soybeans, sugar, and well, we have to mention also meat and orange juice.
True.
We are leading producers of all these commodities, and producers and exporters.
Yes.
We have started to export some of these commodities to the Philippines. Meat, all in all, in the last 2 years, has increased its share in our export basket to the Philippines. And we hope to increase the export of our agriculture sector. But also one of our priorities, if you allow me, Alma, one of our priorities in trade is to increase the percentage of high-valued products. And I think that the export of airplanes to the Philippine Air Force is a significant step in this direction. And we have been viewing in the last decades iron ore and soybeans as the two leading products in our export basket. Well, these are good. We have been consolidating this trade flow during the years, but we want to diversify our export basket. And we are confident that on the Philippine side as well, we want to see the flow of trade and investments to grow. We had an important Philippine investment in the area of port management in Brazil, in the state of Pernambuco, in the northeast of Brazil. And we hope that the export flow from the Philippines will continue increasing in the next few years.
I'd like to ask, since what will you miss here in the Philippines when you go? On a personal note.
Well, I will miss the beautiful beaches of Boracay. I went 3 times to Boracay, and also one unforgettable trip to El Nido in Palawan. And these places, I will have them always in my memories and in my heart. And of course, Manila, this mega city, this metropolis, where I stayed and I lived for the last 5 years. It's a bustling and vibrant city, and I enjoyed very much my stay here.
And sir, do you have any last message for all our viewers who are watching you right now?
No, I just want to say hello to all your viewers. I know that Iglesia Ni Cristo has been trying to consolidate its presence in Brazil recently, and I just want to send a message to all your viewers, reaffirming and reassuring our commitment to continue our relationship with INC, and also this partnership with Eagle that has been very fruitful in the last few years. And I don't know if you have any, I guess you have some Brazilian viewers also. We have a Brazilian community in the Philippines. I just wanted to say hello to my fellow Brazilians who live here.
Okay, well, I just want to reaffirm our commitment to have good relations with Eagle, with INC. I know that you have been trying to consolidate your presence in Brazil. The Brazilian embassy is always open and ready to assist you, whatever need you have. Thank you very much, Alma.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, and good luck on your trip. Soon, is it? And we will miss you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Likewise.
Hello, Aaron. Thank you very much for joining me today and helping me out here in ASEAN in Focus. Thank you, Aaron.
You're welcome, Alma, and it's a great pleasure for me having me here in ASEAN in Focus.
Thank you, Aaron.
And I just want to take the opportunity to greet Brother Willen Regalado for tirelessly supporting and watching us always here at ASEAN in Focus.
Hello, Brother Willen. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you, Alma. And thank you for joining us here at ASEAN in Focus. This is Aaron Ducaleja, your EDC Thailand Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in interesting times. Thank you.